Welcome to Focus on the Candidates. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is my friend Diane Sare, and we're going to talk about all the forces that are working to bring the Trump administration down. So, Diane, the stuff that's going on is really crazy. So, I'd like to hear your perspective.
Well, there's a couple very obvious ones. One is the British, where all of the former MI6 leaders are saying, just bomb Iran now, get it over with. Now, we had a bunch of crazy neocons and Christian Zionists saying Bibi Netanyahu should just get the job done. It's been 2 years now, just about, or almost a year and a half, over 600 and something days of nonstop genocide. Hamas is not defeated. Probably 250,000 Palestinians are dead. What is this job? So anyone who hears get the job done, that right away is terrible. And Trump is alienating the majority of his base. And if you look at Truth Social, which is his social media platform, when he denounced Tucker Carlson as being quote unquote kooky for saying a war with Iran would be insane, ill advised, all of Trump's supporters, with very few exceptions, maybe 1 in 100 or less, said, no, we agree with Tucker Carlson, don't do this.
Wow.
So he is, in a sense, destroying himself. I mean, one problem is, of course, his massive ego, and he seems to be incapable of actually thinking strategically or deeply about things. And it puts us in a quite dangerous situation.
This situation with Tulsi Gabbard isn't exactly, you know, terrific right now.
No, I mean, she had the courage, and I think it was after that emergency meeting that President Trump called at Camp David on June 8th. Tulsi came out on June 10th to make this video from Hiroshima and Nagasaki saying, I just visited, and let me tell you about the horrors of nuclear war, making a very clear warning. And she is a military veteran. She knows what she's talking about. She also survived that 38 seconds. I think Scott's making a film about that in Hawaii, where they got the
Right.
warning that there was a missile headed their way. And she has described seeing parents lowering their children into manholes. I mean, anything, and then you realize there's no shelter, there's no plan for this. And frankly, who would want to survive? I have a friend who's a Vietnam veteran who always uh, likes to tell the story about when they were in some kind of officer training program, and they gave everyone a Geiger counter. And they said if there's a nuclear bomb, you can't go outside until the Geiger counter goes down to something or other. And one of his classmates says, well, why would we want to go outside after that?
Right.
You
Right.
know, there's such an unreality about this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's just it's the same things you turn on the news, but the most distressing thing is I put on the mainstream media and I watch a little bit of MSNBC, CNN, and Fact, News Nation, and it's all the same thing. They're saying, the nuclear weapons that Iran is manufacturing nuclear weapons, but that the alternative media said that's not the case. So it's like 2000, the early 2000s all over again with the lies about the weapons of mass destruction. If that's the case, when will people wake up and realize that we're being lied to?
They may not wake up. They may wake up dead if they don't figure it out because Iran, I mean, look, the world there's changes. You can't, in a sense, they say you never put your foot in the same river twice, right? The water, it's a different river. There are different things that are in it. You cannot go backwards. Iran, first of all, has about 91, 92 million people. It is very advanced scientifically. It has major agreements, economic development and military, not a shared defense agreement, but agreements with China and Russia. And you see already their capabilities. They're using hypersonic missiles that go right through the so-called Iron Dome in Israel, and they're not running out. So what we're looking at, and frankly, I was thinking to myself, you know, so what if they have a scientific research program? They have right now, still, as far as I know, a fatwa, that is a religious decree from the Supreme, Ayatollah, that they are not to develop nuclear weapons. Scott has said, and it's probably accurate, that given the enrichment levels, they're in a position where they could produce a nuclear weapon fairly quickly. But the idea that Israel can just come in and kill off a dozen of their top scientists and leaders, and we think that's okay,
Mm,
it's sort of astounding to me how Americans seem to be incapable of imagining if this were done to us. And I think Trump isn't prepared. And clearly, people are lying to him when they say, oh, no, it's going to work just fine. The new, whatever it's called, this massive bunker buster bomb that we haven't used before that's supposed to go down there and destroy the Iranian nuclear facilities. I was, first of all, you have to have a whole bunch of aircraft accompanying these things. They're admitting that it would take as many as eight of these massive bombs. And the Iranians have dug their tunnels deep into mountains. So if you look at where the tunnels enter in the mountain, they come in on the side of the mountain, and then they go down and around corners, so that probably, I don't know, but I would imagine their most sensitive capabilities are under the height of the mountain. So that means that this weapon, which can go, I forget how deep it can go, has to penetrate the entire height of the mountain and know where it's going underneath. I was watching Ted Postal, who put some slides together on this, and frankly, the chances that we're not even going to hit the target seem to me to be rather great. So you're just talking about a spectacular mess. But I would say, why do we want to even hit the target? It is satanic, actually, to deny people a right to do research, to have nuclear energy, to raise the standard of living of their population. Why is that perceived as a threat to us? Iran has not attacked us.
right.
Iraq didn't attack us. Libya didn't attack us. Syria did. So what gives us the right to run around and destroy the lives of millions of people?
So is that the only I want to use the word force that is trying to bring Trump down? Is there any other situations that we should know about?
Well, I am very worried about this Christian fundamentalist. You have the Christian Zionists, and then you have these crazy, I don't know what, Armageddonists. I don't know if they think they're going to bring on the rapture. Did you see that horrible post from Mike Huckabee?
Uh,
This was just so dreadful. Basically, he says, well, you were ordained by God uh, to to do this, be president. I knew that when you survived the assassination attempt in Butler, and I am your servant. I have been anointed to be your what is this guy talking about? I have been
mhm.
anointed to be your servant, and I will stay here in Jerusalem at the embassy until whatever. So, I mean, it is just bizarre. I guess he thinks he's going to be raptured, but I believe to be raptured, you have to have been Jewish first and then convert, and then
Oh,
Armageddon comes, and then only 400,000 people get to be raptured anyway. So why these people think they're going to be in that number? So when you destroy science, and I'm not speaking like Fauci here, I'm saying when you say there is no such thing as truth, and there is no method of proving whether something is true or false, right or wrong, then you're down a very slippery slope and everything becomes some kind of wacko religious belief. And Trump is going to discover he's being told by these neocons and these Christian Zionist crazies that he's been anointed by God to do this. And he's going to come out of it like Joan of Arc, unscathed from battle. And even she was injured, but it's going to be fine. And Iran will not be able to strike. We have 40,000 American troops in the region in easy range of Iran. How do you think the American people are going to feel when American soldiers start coming back in large numbers in body bags?
Right. What about Ted Cruz? He's a little loopy.
Well, Tucker Carlson sure finished him off. I thought that was great. You saw that probably. Tucker said, "How many
Yep.
people live in Iran?" Oh, I don't know. What's their ethnicity? Look, do I have to know these things? What is this? A Jeopardy? I mean, you're talking about this. Does a military commander go into battle knowing nothing about the enemy? I mean, I guess if they intend to lose, that would be a good strategy.
Well, the thing is, with this whole Iran situation, and Trump has alienated a lot of his base. Now the left, both the left and the right dislike him. So, is there any way that Trump could be a successful
He,
president?
he could, if he could put his ego aside and work with President Putin. The Russians have offered they could solve this. For example, they can work with Iran on the enrichment question. Russia has good relations with Iran and even Israel, even though they have fiercely denounced Israel's unprovoked attack on Iran. So Russia would be a trusted broker. They could guarantee that Iran is not going to strike Israel. They could guarantee the enrichment. There is a pathway to solve this through good relations with Russia. And I think that's why that's the number one target of the British in particular and the traitors in the American intelligence agencies. Oh, and I want to add one more thing because I know Ray McGovern and I think also Scott have called on Tulsi to resign. I can't call for her to resign because I don't know what's going on the inside. If she believes that she has any pull, if she believes that there is some way that she can prevent this from escalating, then I think she probably would stay there because she's going to try and do everything she can. At the point where it becomes hopeless, then you have nothing to lose, then resign. But that is her personal decision. She has to judge that. And I think it would be very ominous indeed if she resigned because I don't know who else is left in that administration who is at all reasonable.
So she's another one that's kind of burned the bridges. She's a former Democrat, and she moved over to the right, and now she's she's on the hot seat.
Well, I wouldn't say she moved to the right. I mean, the point is the Democratic Party drove her out, right? Hillary
Okay,
Clinton said she was a Russian agent.
that's
Tulsi
right.
was going to be the head of the Democratic National Committee, and they wanted her to, endorse their war agenda. No, what you see is, and the reason I ran as an independent and why you're independent minded is that both parties have converged on the same policy because they get a lot of money from foreign lobby groups like APAC, which has to be called a foreign lobby group because that's what it is. It's lobbying in the interest of Israel, a foreign country, and they get money from the military. And unfortunately, that seems to speak to them louder than the constituents that they're supposed to represent.
Now, you talk a lot about uh the Brits. Is there any forces outside the United States that is trying to bring Trump down?
Well, besides the British.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that, well, the Europeans look at Chancellor Merz. I mean, this guy in Germany who was formerly the head of BlackRock, for God's sakes. And you think he might have learned something from World War II, but apparently not. So he wants to send long-range missiles to Ukraine, and he thinks that we have to do everything to defend Israel. which
Mhm.
we're not, by the way. I mean, this is working really well for Israel. Let us not forget they're getting bombed. Hundreds of people are leaving, and that's the point. I believe strongly that Martin Luther King was correct when he said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. You cannot commit evil atrocities, violate natural law, and not suffer the consequences at some point. It may be long in the future, it may be immediate, but it will definitely happen.
But didn't Israel close its borders that people cannot leave?
I saw they were trying to do that, but then there were a bunch of tourists and so on who were all getting out. It reminds me a bit of Ukraine, actually, when the special military operation began, they wouldn't let any fighting age people leave. And actually, I saw horrific video footage of uh, young people being shot at the borders trying to get out. It was absolutely hideous. So I don't know if the Israelis are doing that yet or not, but yeah, they can't afford I mean, you're supposed to go there to be safe. That was the idea after World War II. If it's not safe, why are you going to stay there?
Right. You know what's very interesting is we're using Ukraine in a proxy war against Russia, and Israel is using us in a proxy war against Iran. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I would say the British are, I mean, think about who drew the borders, right? You had the Balfour Declaration, which was
Right.
British. You had the Sykes-Picot. So the British and the French and we are just like a dumb, Helga LaRouche always makes this joke about how much money and time people spend going to the gym to develop their muscles. But
Right.
they don't spend that time developing what's between their
Right.
ears.
Right.
And so here we are in the United States, where we have an enormous mental fitness industry. But I was telling Dennis Kucinich at the wonderful event that we were at together on Wednesday,
Wednesday.
yeah, uh, on the literacy question, do you know right now in the United States, only 37% of high school seniors can read on a high school level? That means 63% of high school seniors are basically not literate. They're literate at eighth grade reading or lower.
So young people are borrowing so much money to go to college and they're not up to par.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy. So, the reason why I created the new YouTube channel focus on the candidates, you and I have been friends for a few years now, and you've run as an independent candidate, not only as for Congress, but you've run in races before that. And as a candidate, you have continued to speak out, and a lot of candidates they might not win, and they might be have great ideas and great thoughts, but yet they don't have a venue in which to articulate. Maybe they do Substack, but Substack is so balkanized that maybe somebody in Ohio might do something. I don't know. So I'm trying to reach candidates to talk about issues that are important, and you're one of my first guests.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor. And I think that's actually a very good idea because you're right, especially since the elections are so controlled, as we've discussed, that you they don't want you to have a platform or be able to speak. And I think people who have run for office, presumably they ran for a reason, and
Correct.
and it is a service to the nation for them to keep their voice there and to keep challenging the power structure as it is right now.
Right, right. So, Diane, if somebody wants to learn more about you or your organization, how can they do so?
Well, it is the It's LaRoucheOrganization.com, or they can go to thelarouche.org, TheLarouche.org. And I'm also on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram under my name. You'll find me one way or the other, Diane Sare.
So, final thoughts about the world situation and Donald Trump.
You know, if we survive this, which
Okay.
I think is the question, I hope there is a Shakespeare among us who can write about it, because what we are living through would provide the most incredible material for tragedy, comedy, operas, everything in between. And if we get through this, then we will have organized a renaissance where mankind will be very, very different. And we'll look back on this and say, oh my goodness, what a bunch of barbarians we used to be. Thank God we're so much more civilized now.
Do you find that civilization is broken down more over the past few years? I mean, I don't remember society being this bad before.
Well, it actually started after the death of Franklin Roosevelt. But if you take the Kennedy assassination, that was a real assault by the Tavistock Institute and the CIA to destroy the culture. So you had 4 assassinations, both Kennedys, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the Vietnam War, and people went through a shock, like a brainwashing, and they abandoned their principles and values, and they began to migrate inwards. So instead of having, and we became consumers instead of producers. And as soon as you're in the mindset of a consumer, you don't need to understand physical principles. You're just passive, waiting for whoever's going to tell you what you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to like. And we became much smaller than we were, and also very depressed and despairing, because there's nothing like the pride of actually producing and knowing that you're leaving something for future generations, whether it's physical infrastructure, a scientific discovery, a beautiful poem. Those are the things that give people optimism.
Or a YouTube channel,
That's right.
right? So
Yes,
Diane,
ideas.
I know you have to move on. So Diane, it was great talking to you. It was great seeing you this week, except
Yes.
that I didn't like the food. Um, so we'll talk again, and um I'm sorry. Thank you everybody for listening. Diane Sare, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.